Hi, my name's Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival, which completed our 13th year last month in March. And one of the most talked about films was Way of the Shepherd, and we have director Matthew Boyd. Sadly, I couldn't make your documentary, but I heard about it. I was excited for it. Unfortunately, the schedule didn't work out. Matthew, can you talk about your documentary and give people a background of it? Because it's really a fascinating topic.
Yeah, Way of the Shepherd. It's really just a short portrait piece about a shepherd from Peru who leaves his family back home for almost 3 years at a time to provide a better life for them by working in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the work that he does is fire fuel mitigation via land management with the help of two Border Collies and about 150 goats that help him to clear the hillsides. And yeah, it's just a simple portrait piece. It began during the height of COVID when there was freeze and lockdown on pretty much every sort of production there was. And I thought this might be a cool little project to tackle. So sunk my teeth into it, got his permission, had my wife translate some questions for him to see if he was interested, and he said sure. So uh, I shelved the project for a while, but we came back to it and got it out there, and I'm so glad I did because it was an honor to premiere in San Francisco, and then after that, go to AmDocs. Thank you so much to Leighton and Teddy and everyone over at AmDocs. You guys put on a fantastic festival, so we were delighted to attend, and it was just a lot of fun and so many quality productions and great people. So it was a great time.
We loved your team. You had a great team with you, and they attended, and we loved every one of them. That your film is also really important because and if you could help me with the timetable, there were some massive, massive fires in the Bay Area, and that's kind of a big issue that we have to deal with here in California, both northern and southern. How much did those fires, I believe it was 2017, 2018, really massive, did a lot of damage. How much of that was an influence in doing this film?
Certainly a major factor that we have to contend with in Northern California, all over California these days,
Hmm.
down in LA, as we've seen over the last couple of years, and now in many other states, and even over in Europe, it's becoming a huge problem. We got lucky with some massive rainfall and dense snowpack over the last few years, and I think that's really, I'm no fire expert, but I think that
Hmm.
is the main factors in what fire season is going to look like, which is normally around November. So
Hmm.
anything that people can do to help mitigate that by clearing brush and um, um, I mean that's seems to be the primary way, other than controlled burns, which
Hmm.
a lot of people are fond of, and other people don't think it's so great. But I say that anything that the indigenous peoples of any certain region have conducted over the years is probably the way to go. And we just keep building homes and barns and clearing areas that probably shouldn't be built on because there have been fire paths going through there for thousands and thousands of years, and a lot of plants are actually pyrophytic, and they burn up, and then they sort of feed the land and fertilize the land, and that's also part of what's so great about having the goats do all this work is that they're not only clearing it naturally in a natural way, but they're also leaving their waste behind, which is fertilizing the land. And I just thought it was a really cool way to help take care of such a massive problem.
Is there a lot of traction for people who want to adopt this more widely, maybe more aggressively? I mean, it just seems like such a great solution to a problem that's just been, for us Californians and as you said, other places, it's just been growing and growing, and it's troubling.
Yeah, I mean, in the Bay Area, the company, the ranch that the goats came from is called Goats R Us, and I know that there are several companies and ranches within the Bay Area that are hired by various companies and um, HOAs and neighborhoods to come to their area and to provide this service. So I'm sure that you could just do a quick Google search in your area if you're interested in this. And I've seen it happening in other countries and other states as well in the US. So I think a quick Google search would help you find the right people. And I think it's a great way to go. Um, there are differing opinions. I've talked to some firefighters that say this is nonsense and it doesn't do the job. But I also point to them that these regions that these goats serve and that these ranches serve and these shepherds serve have been unscathed for a long time. And I don't know how much of that we can attribute to the service provided by the goats, but
Mhm.
I'm going to go with the fact that it is quite beneficial and natural. A lot of another major part about this whole service that the goats and the shepherds provide is these machinery cannot go into these valleys and canyons and these hillsides. It's just far too steep for any machinery for even man to go, and it's just too dangerous. Not to mention the machines themselves can cause fires. They can leak oils and gases and other pollutants, and also kind of um, destroy the land with just their footprint, whether it be giant, heavy tires roaming through, or um, just scarring up the land instead of just little paths of feet that are sort of erased by the time the next season comes around.
Now, how did you come across this story, and when did you decide to make it your next film?
I came across the story in the height of COVID and lockdown, and my wife and I live close by to the Berkeley Hills, and that's where we go hiking often. So we were up there one day, and we've seen the goats there before, but this time decided to approach him and talk to him. His name is Christian Cordova Aliaga. He's from the foothills of the Andes, somewhere in remote Peru, and he was amenable to the idea of having cameras around. I thought he was pretty shocked by it. Like, why would you want to do that? And what's so interesting about this job? That's my daily life. But we made it pretty clear to him right away that we thought it would be a very interesting portrait piece.
I mean, it's such a fascinating story. I mean, I'm really kicking myself for missing it, and I apologize that I missed it. Um, what kind of feedback have you got? I know we touched on it a little bit, but I've heard a lot. I heard a lot of good things from people at AmDocs about the film. What have you heard from AmDocs and the other festivals you've been at?
Feedback so far has been great. We premiered in San Francisco about 2 months ago, and we won the audience award. So that was cool
Mhm.
because there were a lot of other really great films there, and I was very impressed with the lineup. Um, Otherwise, other fellow filmmakers have requested links. We share links with each other, private links, and kind of comment on each other's work. And everything's been positive so far. And was just again delighted to be able to play at AmDocs. That was kind of fingers crossed for that one, and I was so happy to get the news of our acceptance. I was on a trip in Alaska at the time and got the email, and I was asking my wife, like, "Can you read this? Does this mean what I think it means?" Because that was around a little before Christmas time, so it was a nice Christmas present. Um, and yeah, feedback in general has been great. Can't wait to keep taking it around to different festivals, and just got word the other day that we got into Docklands, which is put on by the California Film Institute. It's the same people that put on the Mill Valley Film Festival. And also after that, we're going to Edmonton
Yes.
to Northwest Fest, which is the oldest running documentary film festival in Canada, apparently. And it's also a Canadian Screen Award qualifier. So
Oh,
delighted by that fact too. And yeah, it's going well. And we're just hoping to keep getting into more festivals and just getting more outreach. And in the meantime, I'm also working on my first feature length film, which as a director for a documentary, and halfway through that. So
okay.
yeah.
So, Way of the Shepherd, are there any thoughts of making that a feature length, or are you just kind of? I know you've got other projects that you have to juggle, but what's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I think that Way of the Shepherd is a standalone short, and I think that's all it needs to be.
Hmm.
Um, it provides the information for anyone who's curious, sees them in their neighborhood, like what are these goats doing? Who are these people? Because it does attract a lot of people who are driving by or hiking, depending on the location. And everyone thinks the goats are cute and they want to check it out. And they have lots of questions. And I had sort of a Vox Populi response. I did interviews with people, whether they be UC Berkeley students or families or wherever, depending on the various locations. And I just decided, no, this is too much of a sideline. Let's keep it, focused on a man, his relationship with the animals and the land, and the importance of the work that they do, and the sacrifices he's making for his family back home. He since then has been requested to stay home by his wife.
Mm.
Um, you did your time there. Come back home. We need our father. We need our husband back here. And you did your time. You're getting older. Let's stay in Peru. So uh, on to the next generation, I guess.
Yeah, well, I hope he's instructing a lot of people to do this because it sounds like I'm just so fascinated, intrigued by this. Can you share some of your experiences at AmDocs? What were some of the films you liked, yeah, and what was your experience like in Palm Springs?
Uh, the general experience at AmDocs was tremendously positive. Everything from our accommodation to the weather to screenings, the quality of the of our films there was top notch. That's always a great sign when you're not the best film anywhere. When you look around and you're just more surprised that, how did the level of how did my film get into such a prestigious festival? Because look at all these other films around me. These are just solid films. And The screenings were fantastic. The schedule was great. We were able to jump from one block to another, jump into a feature, go see a presentation. This one by Christopher Blauvelt, the cinematographer, was fantastic. I'm a DP myself. So that was really cool for me to be able to attend and to meet him. He even signed a book for us. The other great part about the festival was going to all the meet and greets and the events that the festival had set up every night was just fantastic. There was always food there and drinks and amazing locations and wonderful people to meet. And It was great to kind of go every night to a different location. We were unable to attend uh, on the last night. We had to get out of there, but it was delightful to meet everybody and stay in touch afterwards. We're always exchanging emails, phone numbers, Instagram, social media, whatever it may be, and sharing private links with each other. And I think that's what it's really all about, is not only showing your own work, but getting to meet other people that are also doing the same thing that you're doing, whether it be narrative or documentary or music videos or anything in between. And That social aspect is key to any great film festival, I think. And AmDocs had it all.
Was there any films that kind of left a certain impression on you that you still think about?
Right. The Eat Flowers was really great. That was River Finley. I actually saw a pre-screener uh, at a local Bay Area film mixer where we were showing various films. I was screening a trailer for a narrative feature I shot last year, and Eat Flowers was there. River Finley was not in attendance, which was a little disappointing, but I think that film has probably had a great run this year already, and you can't go to all the festivals, certainly not. It's just time and money and being in two places at once. What else? I really enjoyed the one about what was it called? Passing Through.
Yeah, yeah.
Sarah, I
With
think.
yeah, Sarah over at Bombay Beach, Salton Sea.
Yeah, the Bombay Beach project was really great. And for me, it was like, how can this topic and this location be covered again and not have
Mhm.
anything recycled or old news or what have you? I know there's been films about that place since, I don't know, maybe the 80s, 90s, maybe even earlier, that I'm
Mhm.
not aware of. But there's certainly a lot out there. So hats off to someone for tackling a subject that's been covered before, but actually shaping it in a new way and presenting it in a new, entertaining and educational manner. And she did just that. The other ones that stuck out to me, there were so many shorts I can't even go into it enough time, but there were so many wonderful shorts. And the Sean Penn screening was fantastic. It was a full house.
Mhm.
Of course, he was there in attendance and did the Q&A with Teddy afterwards. And
Mm.
that was a great project as well. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my
Oh, it
head.
was superpowers.
Superpower, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there were so many, it's too hard to list.
Yeah. I mean, Sean, I was so admired for what he did. He caught a first draft of history. I just think the fact that he was able to be there and capture it, and he's actually there for another thing is really good. And one of the things that I kind of found interesting with doing these interviews and as well as what Sean did was people go in and do documentaries and then they have to pivot because the story becomes something different. Can you talk about a time as a filmmaker when you got into to create a certain kind of film and then in in the process you wind up pivoting and it becomes a different kind of project because it seems like a lot of our filmmakers did that and it just there's something about that process that just to me always seems like to add something to the storytelling.
Yeah, I think it was Albert Maysles who said if you end up with the story that you started with and you haven't been paying attention along the way. And that is certainly the beauty of documentary films. You start the journey and you think you're making one story, but then it turns into something else because you realize that someone contracted cancer while you were filming, or someone passes away, or you just discover some major new information that, as you said, makes you pivot in a completely different direction. And that is part of the beauty of the process of making a documentary. And I I think you're lucky if that happens to you. It's hard enough to make a documentary as it is. A lot of the features take anywhere from 3 to 7 years or more. Um, the one I'm working on right now, the new pivot in a way has been introducing new characters that were inherently involved in the story, but I was sort of glossing over, and now I'm sort of focusing on them, doing my Google research, getting in touch with family members, and learning that this person just passed away 2 years ago. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't have been able to interview them anyway because I hadn't started until just a year ago. But I think that's my current example of the pivot.
Hmm.
Um, but pivots are good, is the
I think that adds to the beauty of documentaries. That's why I'm such a big fan of those. And then lastly, I don't know if you want to comment on this or not, but I took a look at this Variety magazine. They're talking about documentaries and how the market is not great and whatever, which I don't necessarily know if I really agree with that. But what do you think about the state of documentaries these days, especially coming off the big strikes we had last year? The film industry as a whole being in a little bit of a tizzy, I guess.
Yeah, I work in both narrative and documentary space. I've been a cinematographer for the last 20 years, primarily on narrative projects with a documentary here and there. And I sort of returned to my passion for documentaries with two recent short docs and now this feature. But I can't really speak too much for, is this the golden age of documentary or not? That's been said over the last few years. I think there's probably been um, a saturation, if you will,
Hmm.
of documentaries, perhaps, and that influences the market. I'm not necessarily looking to sell my next documentary to Netflix or Hulu or Disney or something. That would be great, but I'm not
Hmm.
expecting it. I would love to just go to some great festivals like AmDocs, um, have an audience to show it to, and then follow that up with more outreach in the educational sectors and also special interest sectors. And in my case, for the next one, it would be outdoor adventure, wilderness travel, wilderness canoeing in particular, and that's a very niche audience. But of course, I'm trying to reach out and find them as much as possible. Business side of things, I don't read the trades about what's happening with the studios or with docs or the streaming networks.
Hmm.
I think any great film is going to, the cream rises to the top. And if you have something original to say, then great. Of course, it's a lot easier if you're making a documentary about someone who's already an icon or pop culture or famous person. If I go make a documentary about, Van Halen tomorrow, It's probably going to get a lot more traction than something about it, my grandfather, who's no one's ever heard of.
Mhm.
So I think it depends heavily on who's backing you, and if no one's backing you, then what is your subject? And if it's a hot topic, you better jump on it right away because a lot of other people are going to do it. If I had all the money in the world, I'd head to the border right now, to the U.S. Mexican border, because there's a lot that's going on down there right now.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would probably start a project about refugee migration, because we're seeing this incredible migration all across the world right now, especially from Africa and into Europe and Middle East into Europe. And it's getting a lot of backlash from Europeans who have been there for hundreds of years, and they're not enjoying this influx of immigrants the same way that a lot of ignorant folks in the US are not happy with a lot of what's happening with people coming to the US. But yeah, I don't know. Lots of
Well,
topics.
that's a whole nother topic that I'd love to discuss with you, but
All right, you got to go through, sift through a lot of stuff here for your edit, for your sound bites. But
well, I think that's going to cover it for us right now. But Matthew, what a pleasure to talk to you. And like I said, we loved your team. We talked to music composer Angela. She was terrific, and really loved seeing your team there. They were great. They're great to have the festival. You guys just brought a great spirit that we all enjoyed. Both you, Angela, and everyone else on your team. So thank you for bringing that spirit to our festival. It really enriched it.
of course, and thank you, Leighton, and thanks to Teddy, and I think Lynn and everyone else involved at the festival. AmDocs is such a great festival, and we're honored to be there. So thank you.
Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, we already have dates for next year. It's March 27th to 31st in Palm Springs. And if you got a film, you can enter it right now. Submissions are open. So we hope to see your films. Hopefully, we'll see you back at our festival, Matthew. We're looking forward to your next film. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you, Leighton.